Listen Up, presented by Dempsey's in Sportsland, alongside Ryan Renner, Phil Becerra. Ryan, I'll be honest with you now, it's way past my bedtime, bud. So if I seem a little bit off, that's why. I'll be honest with you now. Hey, I don't really have too much to say. This is your show to run here tonight. I was wrong again. You was right. But of course, now I don't know if you want me to break the news right now or save it to the end with your final prediction. We're at to let everybody know that this is it. We won't have time for a last check-in before the national championship game. So this is it, Ryan. We'll take about 10 to 15 minutes to check in, talk about this game, what happened against Stanford. Stanford really cooled off. And then we will go straight into our game predictions for the national championship. The UConn Huskies are in the national championship game. And Ryan, it seems so fitting. Again, congratulations to this ball team, but it seems so fitting that just months ago when I was at your house, South Carolina blew UConn away. It just seems so fitting that the Huskies, they need that meeting again with South Carolina, especially because that game was canceled, that rematch earlier in the season. So again, man, I mean, it just seems so fitting, even though Connecticut did not go in as a number 2 seed in the tournament. It really seems like two number 1 teams that are going head to head in this national title game.
It does. And that's who I had in my bracket. I had South Carolina and UConn meeting for the rematch. So I talked about it in UConn's first game in the first round, that this was a real possibility that these two teams could meet for that rematch in the national championship. And here we are. It's almost, Saturday morning now, about around midnight. And,
Yeah, we're
we're
coming
only
up on
almost
midnight on
one
the
day
East
away
Coast.
from the,
Yeah.
the national championship. So, but yeah, I mean, to this game tonight, both teams got off to a really slow start to begin the game. That was quite obvious. Probably some Final Four jitters, to say the least. But AZ and
Yeah.
Page found their shots early in the first quarter. UConn played some solid defense, like we've been used to seeing all season longs. But both teams started to really settle in, I think, at the end of the second quarter. Stanford established themselves in the paint. At the half, Stanford had a 20-6 advantage in the paint. Avina Westbrook hit 3 really big 3-point shots that kind of got UConn going a little bit on offense. Page was rock solid again on the offensive side for UConn, hit tough contested shots all night long. Stanford went on a little run there, to 7-2 run to end the second quarter, but UConn went to the half with just a 1-point lead, and it was only 20-7 to 26. So not a lot of offensive firepower in the first or second quarter, or really, it seemed like throughout the whole entire game, there really wasn't a lot of offensive firepower out of both of these teams.
Yeah. And, you look at this game, and I thought for a second there that we would see both teams actually start to settle in, make their baskets, something we saw against UCF, or rather when UConn played UCF. What was that? Just about a week or two ago, Ryan. Um, so
Yeah.
again, when UCF played UConn, and then of course that thriller against North Carolina State, both teams eventually settled in, and of course both of them ball games were very or they were great, and of course this one was too. But Ron, I just don't I don't know. It's a different kind of excitement. Of course,
Yeah.
obviously for UConn fans, they're yeah. I mean, we're all hyped. UConn is going to the national championship, but this one, especially for Stanford, I mean, I feel like if you want to talk about the Stanford side of the ball, I feel like that this game is going to really haunt this Stanford program for years to come. I personally, I won't be forgetting about this one anytime soon. I mean, no disrespect to Vanderveer and company, but this was really, I don't even know if the word is sloppy, Ryan. I was, even though going for UConn, of course, my prediction was Stanford. I was a little bit disappointed, and I expressed my feelings to you, especially in that third and fourth quarter when I thought things would change at halftime for Stanford, and they just never did. Talk about the disappointment and how long that will hang over their heads, because this looked like the team that could go back to back, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you just mentioned, it's so hard to go back to back, but Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a tough one for Stanford to try to get over. A lot of seniors on that team. That's going to be the last game with Stanford. Of course, they got that championship last year, but this was definitely a tough game. It's going to take a while to get over this loss, but to me, it seemed like Stanford was out of sync on offense. I think that was quite obvious too. But I mean, UConn played good defense, but Stanford really just couldn't throw it in the ocean all night long. And UConn by any means was not lighting
I
up on
like that. Throw
offense
it in the
either.
ocean.
But Kristen Williams, 5 points, 2 of 9 shooting through 3 quarters. So really uncharacteristic night from her as well. But both teams making uncharacteristic mistakes, a lot of bad passes and unforced errors. Just a sloppy game. And just like you said, I don't even know if that's the right word for both of
Yeah.
these teams. And the ball movement for both of these teams, it really seemed like it wasn't there either. So, but in my opinion, for Stanford on offense, I mean, they should have just gave it to Cameron Brink almost every time on offense, because UConn, it seemed like they couldn't stop her when she got in the paint. Edwards and Nelson Adota both had 3 fouls in the third quarter. Nelson Adota picked up her fourth there in the fourth quarter. So they couldn't really play that physical of a defense, because like we've been saying all week long, with Dorka going out, UConn has to default to that smaller lineup with Nika Mule or Avina Westbrook. So, but Stanford, 20 points in the paint in the first half and only 4 in the third quarter. So I'm not sure. It just seemed like for Stanford, they just couldn't get it going all night long on offense.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, you go from a team that, you know, it's tough because they almost scored 60 against Texas. Stanford did. But I don't think it's safe to say we should have seen it coming when it comes to Stanford cooling off. I'm not too sure if a lot of people that watch this podcast expected Stanford to come out the way they did tonight. Again, they battled throughout the ball game, but again, I don't think that's no excuse for Vanderveer. She came up short, and that's that. I mean, two great head coaches, battling out head to head. But again, how do you go? What I just don't understand, Ryan, how do you go from, I mean, they were playing some heavy ball teams. The last time it looks like on the schedule that they scored the fewest points was against number 8 Oregon State in the Pac-12 tournament. And Stanford only scored 57 then. So, I mean, if you go from a team scoring 57 and it looks like they scored about 70, they scored 72 against Maryland, and they scored 91 against number 8 Kansas in the second round. I just don't, again, Connecticut has that top tier defense we talk about in the league. But, man, when you have Haley Jones, you have Cameron Brink, the twins, the Hall twins, I don't see how you cool off or take a step back that quickly.
Yeah, and Stanford is such a good 3-point shooting team, but tonight 2 of 18 from the 3-point line. So just really, like I mentioned, just an uncharacteristic night, and they just couldn't seem to get to see the ball go through the net to get some momentum going on offense. And like I mentioned, they only had that one run to end the second quarter, and then they came out in the third quarter and they didn't get it into the paint. Only 4 points in the paint the whole third quarter. So I'm not really sure what the offensive mindset or the offensive game plan was for Stanford in that third quarter. But I will say, though, in the fourth quarter, UConn, they started to get rolling on offense a little bit. Better ball movement, better passes. Cameron Brink picked up 2 fouls early in the fourth. She had to sit a little bit because she had 4 total fouls. But the story, I think, remained the same for UConn, and that was their defense leading to their offense. If they didn't create those turnovers, get some steals, I still don't think they probably wouldn't have won this game, because like I said, their offense wasn't that much better than what Stanford was. So UConn, despite their struggles on offense, they still got the rebounds, they got steals, created turnovers, and they played tough physical defense, just like we've seen throughout this tournament and all season long.
And I agree with you, Ryan. I don't think Cameron Brink saw the ball nearly enough in this ball game. Although she had 4 fouls
No.
on her, she was getting ready to check out before the ball game was over. But I don't think that she saw the ball. Again, Vanderveer knows what she's doing. Let's just go ahead and say that to be on the safe side. Hey, we don't want to take it that far, but hey, I just I'm not too sure. Brink, you're right. I mean, Brink tore Maryland up. My Maryland Terps in the paint, she tore him up in the paint. So I mean, and to me, Stanford, if you're going to take that many 3-point attempts, especially late in a ball game when you're already trailing, you got to make them. I mean, it's that simple.
It's simple as that. Yeah.
You have to make them. If you don't, it's game over. And like you said, well, Phil, they can hope for their free throw or UConn's free throw attempts to not go in. But hey, UConn was just that good tonight. Still came out slow, but Stanford was just that much slower in this ball game.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those free throws because that's what I was just about to bring up for UConn. We talked about, they struggled a little bit to say the least in the regular time in their last game against NC State in regulation, but 15 of 17 tonight from the free throw line in the fourth quarter for UConn. So that was a huge reason why UConn was able to stay ahead in that fourth quarter when Stanford was fouling them. UConn just continued to make their foul shots. So that was big from UConn tonight.
Now I'm guessing we're just a minute after midnight here. So we're on to Saturday morning, Ryan, in here in Maryland. So I'm guessing not a lot of people are awake at this time of the day. But let's just go over some comments. We appreciate everybody. I'm sure UConn's celebrating now back in stores. You can bet that they're up on a late Friday
I would
night
imagine so, yeah.
into Saturday morning. But other than that, I'm not too sure if the rest of the East Coast and out west is awake. Still awake. A lot of people in bed. But hey, we want to appreciate everybody coming through on the last video. You all did an incredible job with the support. Keep that up. And Ryan, I'll just read off about 3 or 4, maybe 2, 3, 4 comments, and then we'll head on out before the early alarm goes off again for you. And this was from the last video. UConn Huskies face Stanford in Final Four. Ryan, I'm trying to see here if there's any new ones that came through. Let's go with this one. This one caught my eye just now. And again, I won't talk any so we can save some time. We'll see what Ryan has to say. BK says, also South Carolina is losing on Friday. Their offense hasn't been impressive outside Boston. Creighton was daring them to shoot from 3, but lacked firepower to take them down. If they had a quality shooter, they'd be great. They haven't played a team that has tested them yet. Even if they make it to the final, whoever wins the UConn Stanford game is taking them easy. Wow. I don't know if no, I'm not going down that road.
Yeah, that's a pretty bold prediction to say the least. That's pretty bold. Well, I mean, if you watch the game tonight before UConn, Louisville, and South Carolina, I'd say South Carolina picked up their offense tonight. They won 72-59. Louisville kept it close. I will give them that. But South Carolina took control in that fourth quarter. Aaliyah Boston, another dominant game from her. Of course, got another double AP Player of the Year this year. But South Carolina definitely picked it up on offense tonight. And, I don't think UConn by any means is going to blow South Carolina out of the water in the national championship game. I think it's going to be pretty tough for UConn, in my opinion, to take down South Carolina in the championship game.
Let's go over to Osei Brony. I haven't seen this name yet, so we appreciate you coming through and watching us. If Stanford comes out with 4 guards, UConn should also play with 4 guards. Olivia and Edwards together are offense liabilities.
Yeah, and we saw that a little bit tonight when Aaliyah got into a little bit of foul trouble. We saw Avina Westbrook and Nika Mule step in to play that 4 spot. and they did a pretty good job. I was expecting Nika to get a couple more minutes, and she definitely did. I just love her intensity, not only on the offensive side of things, but on the defensive side of things. Her hustle plays, she hustles for rebounds, and I think it's a big reason why it fires up the team and it gets them going. So Vina Westbrook and Nika Mule, awesome job tonight stepping in to play that fourth spot.
Richard Bird, I'm smiling to myself. I hear you talking. Richard Bird, Ryan, he holds up the peace sign. Thanks for coming through on the last video, Richard. But he says, UConn, you had a great season.
Yeah, I saw that one. I think some of the UConn fans in the comments got a little heated about that one because they were defending their Huskies. But the UConn Huskies roll on to another game. They're playing in the national championship. So they're going on. So
Richard, don't feel bad, Richard. You're not the only one. I know Ryan can have witness to this one. I had South Carolina by one. I'm sorry, Stanford by one. Stanford by one. I went with Vegas again, Ryan. I guess it's safe to say that we can't even go with Vegas if they got a team by 1 or 1.5, huh? How about a half a point? Maybe a half a point if there's such thing. How about let's see here. Well, time for 2 more, Ryan. Austin says just 2 more, and then we'll head on out. Michael Lawson, for UConn to beat Stanford, it will take the 3 C's: coaching, charisma, character. Tara said in an interview in a newspaper that Texas played a brand of rugby. If this is what it takes, so be it. You have to let Caroline have the mentality of that guard. DeBerry and Piath will have to play quality minutes to keep their starting bigs out of foul trouble. Mule chest to chest defensively against the opposing players.
Yeah, and we didn't see any of Piath or Dayberry tonight for UConn, which I kind of expected that. I had just no whatsoever. Didn't think that Gino was going to put either of them in this Final Four game. If it worst come to worst, I guess he would put one of them in. But I just,
you never had any big expectations for him, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I just couldn't see Gino putting them in a Final Four game. And Ducharme as well. She didn't get a lot of minutes tonight either for UConn. I was kind of expecting Westbrook and Nika Mule to play over her. Of course, with Ducharme just being a freshman, but yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of charisma and character tonight from UConn, and Gino was fired up there on the sidelines for a couple of plays too. So UConn definitely has the coaching over there with Gino that kept him in the game and was keeping him calm. But yeah, the character tonight from UConn really showed and helped them get the win tonight in the fourth quarter.
And how about Grobel? Why not? I don't think we went over Grobel's last comments on the last video, so we'll get back to him. He's always a big supporter of this show. We thank him for coming through again. One thing to note, Stanford doesn't have really a natural point guard. Smith graduated last year, and they have been very turnover prone if you pressure them. That's how they lost the South Carolina game earlier this year and how Maryland came back so much in the fourth quarter in the tourney. Both teams have potentially interesting matchup issues. Stanford really doesn't have anyone to guard Edwards man-to-man in their starting 5. They will likely put Haley Jones on her. So maybe Edwards can get Jones in foul trouble early. At the other end, Edwards will have to guard a perimeter player in their 4-guard lineup. I think Wilson can get exposed defensively by Page. AZ or Kristen, I think they will go after her. And then he puts Avina and possible Ducharme will be important as they will need to play good minutes and match up well against the 4-guard lineup. Yeah, Ryan. I mean, we talked about how it was going to be huge to make up for Dorka Juhas's absence in this ball game. And personally, my opinion, I mean, UConn played very well without her on the floor, especially in the paint. But again, you just have to question, what if Brink saw the ball more often?
Yeah, and I think that was really the key in this game. What was the matchup was Stanford playing 4 guards. Because if I wouldn't have saw that when I was researching the Stanford Cardinal before the game, I would have picked them because I just thought there was no way that UConn without Dorka coming off the bench, I didn't think that they would have enough
Well, you
size.
originally had him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until I saw that Stanford was, played a 4-guard lineup, and I realized that UConn, they were going to match up with them quite well, and but it really wasn't the case that Jones was matched up on UConn's bigs, because Edwards was on the bench for a fair amount of time while Adota was playing, because Edwards picked up 3 early fouls. Of course, Nelson Adota did too, but Gino opted to go with her instead. But yeah, I mean, I just think at the end of the day, UConn matched up very well, and they were able to make up for without having Dorka. And like I said, Westbrook and Mule played very, very well in this game, filling in for Dorka.
I'm not. I won't even look at the line, even if it's out. I don't want to, Ryan. I've had enough of the lines with Vegas. So actually, I don't even know right now if the line is out or not. I haven't looked. I don't know if they have UConn on, if they have South Carolina. With that said, here it comes, the hardest part of the show. We will not be back on until, I guess, late again, huh? After the national championship game. This is the most challenging part, Ryan. And I guess, again, we don't have a lot of time to talk about the matchup. We apologize for that. But I don't, you talk about Aaliyah Boston for South Carolina, how big she's been. Something that really stood out to me in this ball game, Stanford and UConn. I was expecting both teams to come out and start hot, at least one team start quick. That never happened, especially for the losing team in this matchup, and that was Stanford. To me, they just never found their focus to, like they did against Maryland or all the other teams they're defeated, to get to this point. Anyhow, with that said, the game you told me about, what were they playing? Miami? Was South Carolina when they got out to that slow start?
Yeah.
Miami. I mean, you and I, if people don't know what we're talking about, you and I were down there at the Maryland Terps game watching the women play, and you looked at your phone, Ryan. It was like, what, halftime? And tell them what you saw. I forgot the story now.
Yeah. The final score of that game was 49-33. So that just goes to show you, it was even a worse shooting performance than this game tonight from Stanford and UConn.
Yeah. I think for South Carolina, the head coach, I think she had put so much focus on Stanford. Now, I'm not saying she's doubted UConn, but I think I think it's just safe to say just a little bit of a shock to her that she's facing the Huskies at this point in the season, to say the least, down to 2 teams. I think you would agree in a way with that. It's tough, man. I went against this UConn team all year long, and it's tough to go with the Huskies at this point, only because of the way, if I would have seen an amazing performance out of, and again, not taking anything away from Paige or this team, but just the way they look tonight, Ryan, if I would have seen a better performance overall, and I understand without Dorka Juhas, it's tough. It is very, very tough. And no disrespect, I want to say UConn winning the national championship. I really want to go with them.
Yeah.
But I'm going to have to go with South Carolina to win the national title. I feel like that UConn has done a lot to get to this point, as far as they've improved a lot from the last time South Carolina played them. What was that in the? It was in a certain tournament. It was months ago when I was at your house.
It was in the Bahamas, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, with that said, I definitely would like to go with the Huskies. I just can't do it. I cannot do it, Ryan. If you want me to give a score prediction, I will. As of now, I guess we'll just keep it at who we think will win the national title. I'm gonna have to go with South Carolina. If you might as well go ahead and give your score prediction and who you have, and then I'll give my score prediction. Let me take a little bit of time to think here for a second.
Yeah, well, interesting stat I just thought of. Gino, he's made it to 22 Final Fours, and of course he's 11-10. I guess tonight he's 12-10 after tonight, but he's never lost in a national championship game. He's 11-0.
Oh,
So
in his whole career, he's never lost in a national title game.
yeah, but 11-0. Yeah. So
Oh my.
yeah,
Oh boy.
that's an interesting stat.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. UConn tonight, despite the win, really poor performance, I think, to say the least. But I think the fans, even if UConn loses tomorrow, Sunday night in the national championship, I don't think they want to admit it, but I think the season will still be a win overall.
Yeah.
Just looking at everything they've had to gone through and this and that.
Yeah, I said it after that double overtime victory. I mean, how could
Yeah.
you? The only thing better, obviously, is a national championship. We get it. We get it, guys, for people that watch us. But again, look at everything they've been through. And for that performance against North Carolina State, I mean, Ryan, how could you forget it anytime soon?
Yeah, and down a player, just amazing. But
yep.
Yeah, and but just the performance tonight. If UConn would have blew Stanford out of the water, I think I would have been more confident picking UConn. I really want to go for them. I'll definitely be pulling for them tomorrow night in the championship game. But I went with UConn all season long. But I'm with you on this one. I'm going to pick South Carolina. They've been on top all
Coming to my
season
side
long.
for a change, huh?
I think Aaliyah Boston is going to be too much, and along with South Carolina's guards. I think the size will become a factor for UConn. I don't think they'll be able to overcome that in this game against South Carolina. I'll go 71-65 South Carolina.
71-65. I'm going to take a little bit lower score just because of what I saw tonight. I'm going to go 68-64 South Carolina. So with that said, Ryan, we will leave it right there. And hopefully we will do everything we can in our power to get back on here Sunday, right after the national championship. Ryan, it's crazy. It is crazy from day one. And here we are at literally about a little over 24 hours, I'd say. Maybe 48 hours away from a national title game with the UConn Huskies. It's not breaking news, but if you paid attention to the season and looked at the way the Huskies got into this national championship game, it's definitely breaking news that they are there.
Yeah, I mean, with everything they've had to gone through, there is definitely a lot of doubters out there. There was some people saying maybe even a 3 or 4 seed going into the tournament. They went on that run, got a 2 seed in the tournament. It definitely didn't. It looked shaky at times, to say the least, for UConn over the season. But it's been a long journey recapping every single game for UConn this season. It's been a fun ride with you, recapping all these episodes, and we got one more left tomorrow night in the national championship game.
That's right. It's been a fun ride, Rye. And we will leave it at that. The national championship game, Sunday night, 8:00, Ryan. It's the UConn Huskies punching their ticket to the national championship game. Number 1, South Carolina, Ryan. We have seen them at the top all season long. Will this be it? Can the Huskies knock off? And yes, the Gamecocks are the team to beat in the national title game. Can the Huskies do it? We'll be back Sunday night. Phil and Rye on Listen Up.